The war had been raging for 8 months when the remnants of the Galactic Council made their final desperate gambit. Unable to defeat humanity through conventional military means, they had retreated to their core worlds and prepared for a siege that they believed would be impregnable. Captain Sujin Choi piloted her corvette Deathwish through the outer defenses of the Council's capital system, studying the massive fortifications that protected their last stronghold. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons. Overlapping energy shields created an impenetrable barrier, and the combined fleets of 4 surviving Council species formed a defensive sphere around their homeworld. Intelligence report confirmed. She transmitted back to the human fleet waiting at the system's edge. They've turned their capital into the ultimate fortress, every defensive technology they have, layered into what they think is an unbreachable shell. Admiral Yuna Kim received the report aboard her flagship Earthshaker, a converted asteroid mining platform that had become the symbol of human resistance. Around her, the largest human fleet ever assembled waited for orders. Over 500 vessels that had once been cargo haulers, research ships, and industrial equipment. "Assessment, Captain Choi?" Yuna asked. "They're scared," Sujin replied bluntly. "This isn't a military fortification. It's a panic room. They've stuffed every ship they have left into one system and hope the defenses will keep us out." The irony wasn't lost on any human present. The species that had once offered to protect humanity from the dangers of the galaxy had retreated to a single fortified world, terrified of the very people they had tried to civilize. "Sir," reported Commander Kyung-ho Nam from the tactical station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." The main screen flickered to life, showing not one alien leader but representatives from all remaining Council species. They stood together in what appeared to be their most sacred chamber, a desperate alliance of survivors facing extinction. Counselor, bright edge of dawn, his crystalline form dim and cracked from months of warfare, spoke for them all. "People of Earth, we offer you one final opportunity for peace. Withdraw your forces, return to your system, and we will establish formal borders between our territories. The galaxy is large enough for both of our civilizations." Admiral Yuna Kim almost laughed at the reversal. 8 months ago, these same aliens had demanded humanity's surrender and offered to relocate them to reservation worlds. Now they were begging for the same deal they had once dismissed as impossible for humans to reject. "Counteroffer," Yuna replied coldly. "Unconditional surrender, dissolution of the Council, recognition of humanity as the dominant military power in this galaxy. You tried to cage us, to domesticate us, to turn us into pets. That was your mistake." The alien representatives exchanged fearful glances. Several species began chattering in their native languages, the universal translation software struggling to keep up with overlapping conversations about surrender terms and evacuation protocols. Admiral Kim, Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn, said, desperately, "Your species has already proven its superiority in warfare. Surely you don't need to destroy entire civilizations to make your point." "You're right," Yuna agreed. "We don't need to destroy you, but we need to ensure you never again mistake kindness for weakness or diplomacy for submission. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you threaten a Death World species." She cut the transmission and turned to her fleet commanders. "The Council thinks their fortress is impregnable because they built it using civilized warfare assumptions. They're wrong. Captain Choi, you're authorized to proceed with the demonstration." Sujin acknowledged the order and began her approach to the Council's ultimate stronghold. Her single corvette looked pathetically small against the massive defensive installations that protected the alien capital. Energy weapons tracked her approach, shield generators hummed with power, and thousands of defensive platforms prepared to unleash devastating firepower. But Sujin wasn't planning to attack the defenses. She was going to demonstrate something the Council had never considered possible. Her ship carried a device that human engineers had built using principles they had learned from studying captured alien technology. But where the aliens had used these principles to create elegant, precise instruments, humans had weaponized them in a way that would have been unthinkable to any civilized species. The quantum field generator that Sujin activated was a masterpiece of human engineering. Brutal, efficient, and completely without regard for the conventional wisdom that said certain forces of nature should never be tampered with. For exactly 60 seconds, every atom on the Council capital world experienced what it was like to exist on Earth. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The planet's gravity, which had been a comfortable constant for millions of years, suddenly became chaotic and unpredictable. Tectonic plates shifted as gravitational fields fluctuated. Oceans surged and receded in impossible patterns. The atmosphere itself seemed to writhe as pressure differentials created windstorms that no Council species had ever experienced. For 1 minute, the aliens' paradise world became a death world. The screams that echoed through the Council's communication networks were unlike anything ever heard in galactic history. Species that had evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates found themselves experiencing the kind of environmental chaos that Earth's children faced every day. Buildings designed for stable gravity collapsed as weight fluctuated randomly. Transportation systems failed as their navigation computers couldn't adapt to changing gravitational fields. Millions of aliens experienced motion sickness, disorientation, and pure terror as their world tried to kill them. Then, exactly 60 seconds after it began, the effect stopped. Gravity returned to normal. The storms calmed. The chaos ended. But the lesson had been delivered. Sujin's voice cut through the stunned silence on the Council's communication channels. That was Earth normal gravity variation. What you just experienced for 1 minute we live with every day. That's why we're stronger than you. That's why we're faster than you. That's why we survive things that would kill your entire species. The surrender came within hours. Not from the military commanders or political leaders, but from the populations of the Council worlds themselves. Billions of aliens who had just experienced a tiny taste of what humans called normal living conditions demanded immediate capitulation. The formal ceremony took place on Council Station Harmony, the same facility where humanity had first been, offered protection less than 2 years earlier. But this time, human Marines stood guard in the corridors, and Admiral Yuna Kim sat in the chair that had once belonged to the Council speaker. The surviving alien representatives stood before her like defendants awaiting sentence. Their proud civilizations had been reduced to defeated remnants begging for mercy from the species they had once planned to domesticate. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved, Yuna announced to the assembled delegates and the galaxy beyond. In its place, humanity establishes the Terran Protectorate. All former Council worlds will be granted autonomy under human oversight. All military forces will be disbanded except for local defense units approved by Terran Command. Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn, speaking for the last time as a representative of galactic civilization, asked the question that everyone was thinking. Admiral Kim, what assurance do we have that humanity will be merciful rulers? Yuna studied the defeated aliens for a long moment before answering. You spent months trying to convince us that we needed your protection because the galaxy was dangerous. You were wrong about who needed protection from whom, but you were right about one thing. The galaxy is dangerous. She gestured to the holographic display that showed the vast expanse of unexplored space beyond the former Council territories. Out there are threats you can't imagine. Species that make us look peaceful. Empires that would enslave or devour everything in their path. The Council spent so long believing you were the apex predators of the galaxy that you forgot to watch for real dangers. The alien representatives looked confused. If such threats existed, why hadn't the Council encountered them in their millennia of expansion? Because, Yuna continued, they were waiting for something worth conquering. A galaxy united under a single, powerful government. The Council was building exactly what they wanted, a civilization ripe for harvesting. The implications hit the aliens like a physical blow. Their peaceful expansion, their careful diplomacy, their gentle integration of new species, it had all been creating a target for predators they didn't know existed. Humanity will protect this galaxy, Yuna declared, not because we're kind, but because we're the only species strong enough to face what's coming. You tried to civilize us because you thought civilization made you superior, but civilization makes you soft. Peace makes you weak. Comfort makes you vulnerable. She stood, and every human in the chamber came to attention. The sound of their synchronized movement was like thunder in the vast space. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We are the descendants of survivors who clawed their way to the top of the food chain on a planet that didn't want them to exist. We are what evolution creates when it has no choice. The Council's response to their defeat at Kepler Station was swift and overwhelming. Within 2 weeks, they had assembled the largest military force in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships from all 12 member species led by their most experienced admirals and equipped with their most advanced weapons. Commander Wu Jin Lee watched the massive alien fleet approach the outer edge of human space from his position aboard the command ship Stormbreaker. The sight was genuinely impressive. A wall of starships stretching across light years of space, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Tactical assessment, he ordered, though he already knew what his sensors would tell him. Enemy fleet composition includes the Veltar Royal Navy, Nimdai battlespheres, Kethlon hive fleets, and contingents from 9 other Council species, reported Lieutenant Sujin Choi from the tactical station. Combined tonnage exceeds our entire space-based military by a factor of 15 to 1. Any rational military commander would have considered retreat at this point. The human fleet that faced the Council Armada consisted of barely 200 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels that still looked more like mining equipment than warships. But Wu Jin wasn't planning to fight a rational battle. "Signal all ships," he commanded. "Execute Death World Protocol. Let's show these aliens what their pretty civilized worlds never taught them." The transformation began immediately. Human vessels that had been maintaining standard formation suddenly scattered into the void, disappearing from sensors as they activated stealth systems the aliens didn't know existed. Within minutes, the massive human fleet had simply vanished. Admiral Crystalwing, commanding the Council forces from his new flagship, stared at his sensor displays in confusion. Where did they go? 300 human vessels don't just disappear. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "we're detecting some unusual gravitational anomalies near the system's outer planets, but no clear ship signatures." What the aliens didn't understand was that human ships weren't hiding behind conventional stealth technology. They were using the star system itself as camouflage, positioning themselves in environments that would be lethal to any Council species. Captain Da-Yoon Kim, commanding the assault ship Night Stalker, had taken her squadron into the corona of the system's primary star. The temperatures and radiation levels would have instantly killed any Council crew. But humans had built their ships to operate in Earth's magnetosphere, where such conditions were routine. "Enemy formation is maintaining standard approach vector," she reported to Wu Jin over quantum encrypted communication. "They're treating this like a formal fleet engagement." Other human squadrons had positioned themselves in equally impossible locations. Some ships hid in the metallic hydrogen storms of gas giants where the pressure would crush Council vessels like tin cans. Others waited in asteroid fields where the gravitational chaos would tear apart any ship not designed for such conditions. The Council fleet continued its stately advance, searching for an enemy that seemed to have abandoned the battlefield. Their sensors, calibrated for detecting ships in open space, couldn't track vessels operating in environments their builders had never imagined anyone would try to survive. "Sir," Admiral Crystalwing's tactical officer called urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." Wu Jin's image appeared on the main screen, his scarred face calm despite the overwhelming odds he faced. Behind him, the bridge of his ship showed clear signs of combat damage from previous battles. Exactly the kind of battle scars that no Council vessel had ever acquired. "Admiral Crystalwing," Wu Jin said politely, "I see you brought more ships this time. Did you learn anything from your last visit to human space?" The alien admiral's crystalline features flickered with anger. "Commander Lee, you face the combined might of the entire Galactic Council. Surrender now and your species will be granted the mercy of re-education rather than extinction." "Interesting offer," Wu Jin replied, "but I have a counter-proposal. Leave human space immediately, and we'll let you live long enough to warn the rest of the galaxy about us." "You cannot be serious. Your entire fleet is outmassed 50 to 1. Wu Jin's smile was cold as vacuum. Admiral, you're still thinking like a civilized species. You see numbers and tonnage and assume they matter. But you're fighting in our backyard. Now, and we know this neighborhood better than you do. The transmission cut, and for several minutes the Council fleet continued its advance into what appeared to be empty space. Then the ambush began. The first indication of trouble came when the fleet's trailing elements simply started disappearing. Ships at the rear of the formation would report normal status one moment and vanish from sensors the next, leaving only expanding clouds of debris. "What's happening to our rear guard?" demanded Admiral Crystalwing. "Unknown, sir. Ships are reporting massive structural damage from impacts by unidentified objects, then losing contact completely." What the aliens couldn't see was Captain Min Ji-yoon's squadron attacking from the outer system's comet cloud. Her ships, built to navigate Earth's asteroid belts, moved through the debris field like sharks through water. They would accelerate chunks of ice and rock to devastating velocities, using the system's own materials as kinetic weapons. Each attack destroyed a Council ship and left no trace of the attackers, who disappeared back into the comet cloud before enemy sensors could lock onto them. The aliens tried to adapt, tightening their formation and increasing sensor sweeps, but this only made them more vulnerable to the next phase of the human attack. From the chromosphere of the system's star, Dayun's squadron emerged like demons from hell itself. Their ships, glowing white-hot from stellar radiation, fell on the Council formation's flank in a devastating attack run. The aliens' energy weapons, designed to function in the controlled environment of civilized space combat, malfunctioned when trying to target vessels emerging from stellar plasma. Their targeting computers couldn't compensate for the gravitational lensing and electromagnetic interference, but human kinetic weapons worked perfectly. Chunks of stellar matter, accelerated by magnetic rail systems that had been designed to function in solar storms, tore through the Council formation like bullets through paper. 30 alien ships died in the first pass, their sophisticated hulls no match for projectiles that had been forged in the heart of a star. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Crystalwing as he watched another wave of human ships emerge from Jupiter's atmospheric storms. "No species can operate in those conditions." His aide, a young Veltar officer, was studying the tactical displays with growing horror. "Sir, the humans aren't fighting like a military force, they're hunting us. Using the environment as a weapon, striking from positions we can't reach, targeting our weakest elements." The alien admiral was beginning to understand the difference between civilized warfare and the kind of total conflict that Earth had taught humanity. Council battles were formal affairs fought in open space between honorable opponents. But humans treated war like they treated survival on their death world, with absolute ruthlessness and complete exploitation of every available advantage. The Council fleet tried to maintain formation, but human attacks came from impossible directions. Ships would emerge from gas giant atmospheres, strike with devastating efficiency, then disappear back into environments that would kill any pursuing vessels. Commander Wu Jin coordinated the assault from a position deep within the system's asteroid belt, his ship invisible among the tumbling rocks and metallic debris. He watched the alien formation disintegrate as squadron after squadron fell victim to attacks they couldn't predict or counter. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Choi, "enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. Multiple vessels attempting to withdraw from combat." "Let them go," Wu Jin ordered. "But make sure they understand the lesson we're teaching them." As Council ships began fleeing toward hyperspace, human squadrons emerged from their hiding places to deliver parting shots. They didn't try to destroy every fleeing vessel. That would have been wasteful. Instead, they crippled ships just enough to ensure they would limp home carrying word of their defeat. Admiral Crystalwing's flagship was among the vessels that escaped, its crystalline hull cracked and scarred from kinetic impacts. As his ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, he sent one final transmission to the human fleet. "This cannot stand," he declared. "The Council will not allow a single species to threaten galactic peace. We will return with forces you cannot imagine." Wu Jin's response was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every surviving alien ship would carry his words back to their homeworlds. "Admiral, You just learned the first rule of fighting a Death World species. We don't fight fair, we don't fight clean, and we don't fight by your rules. You want to know what forces we can't imagine? Try us, but remember, every time you come to our space, fewer of you go home. The surviving Council vessels jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of what had been the largest military force in galactic history. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered human space, fewer than 800 escaped with minimal damage. As the debris field settled into stable orbits around the system's planets, Wu Jin surveyed the aftermath of humanity's greatest victory. His forces had faced overwhelming odds and turned. The first battle of humanity's war for independence took place at Kepler Station, humanity's outermost colony. Commander Seungmin Han had been waiting 3 days for the Council fleet to arrive, and when they finally dropped out of hyperspace, he had to admire their formation. 300 Council warships arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns around the small human outpost. Their hulls gleamed like jewels in the starlight, each vessel a masterpiece of engineering and artistic design. They moved with ballet-like precision, every maneuver calculated for maximum visual impact. Intimidation display, observed Lieutenant Da-Hyun Kim from the tactical station of Han's flagship. They want us to surrender before the shooting starts. Seungmin nodded, studying the alien formation on his screens. 50 human vessels faced the Council fleet, mining ships, cargo haulers, and research vessels that looked like scrap metal compared to the aliens' pristine warships. Any reasonable military analysis would conclude that the humans were hopelessly outmatched. The Council Admiral's transmission came exactly on schedule. Admiral Crystalwing appeared on the main screen, his crystalline features radiating confidence. Human, forces at Kepler Station, he announced formally. You are ordered to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be considered an act of terrorism against the galactic community. Seungmin activated his own transmission, ensuring it reached every ship in both fleets. Admiral Crystalwing, this is Commander Han of the Human Defense Force. You are trespassing in human territory. Leave now, or we will remove you. The alien admiral's form flickered with what might have been amusement. Commander, you face 300 ships of the line with your collection of mining equipment. Surely you cannot be serious about fighting, Admiral, Seungmin replied with a cold smile. You came to the wrong neighborhood. The transmission cut, and both fleets prepared for battle. The Council ships began their approach using standard peacekeeping tactics, a slow, methodical advance designed to give the enemy multiple opportunities to surrender. Their weapons charged with deliberate visibility, energy signatures bright enough to be detected from several light-years away. They're following the civilized warfare protocols, reported Da-Hyun, reading the alien ship movements. Formation, spacing for minimal collateral damage, weapon systems announcing their charging cycles, even broadcasting their intended targets in advance. Seungmin shook his head in amazement. The Council wasn't just fighting a war. They were performing a carefully choreographed dance where both sides were supposed to know the steps. All human vessels, he broadcast on tactical frequency. These aliens think they're in a formal duel. Show them what real war looks like. Execute Hunter Protocol. The transformation was instant. Human ships that had been sitting motionless suddenly scattered in all directions, their movements seemingly random and chaotic. But there was method to the madness. Each vessel was moving toward a predetermined position based on real-time tactical analysis of enemy formations. The Council fleet's response was predictably elegant. They adjusted their formation to maintain optimal spacing, recalculated firing solutions, and continued their measured advance. They were still following their protocols, treating this as a peacekeeping operation against unruly civilians. That was their first mistake. Seungmin's ship, the converted mining vessel Earthbreaker, accelerated directly toward the center of the Council formation. Its scarred hull and industrial appearance made it look like a desperate suicide run by an outmatched commander. The Council ships prepared to destroy the approaching vessel with their precise plasma cannons. But something strange happened. The human ship didn't try to dodge or evade. Instead, it flew straight into the concentrated fire of a dozen alien vessels and kept flying. Impossible, breathed Admiral Crystalwing as he watched his fleet's weapons splash harmlessly against the human ship's hull. Their armor shouldn't be able to withstand concentrated plasma fire. What the Admiral didn't understand was that human ships weren't armored against plasma weapons. They were built to survive Earth's magnetosphere, where radiation levels would cook any Council species in minutes. The aliens' energy weapons, designed to look impressive while minimizing actual destruction, barely registered against hulls that routinely shrugged off solar flares. Earthbreaker reached the Council formations, center and opened fire, but instead of the elegant energy beams the aliens expected, the human ship unleashed a storm of kinetic projectiles, simple chunks of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The Council ship's shields, designed to deflect specific energy frequencies in predictable patterns, were useless against physical projectiles. Earthbreaker's first salvo punched through 3 alien vessels, their beautiful hulls crumpling like paper. Multiple breaches on the Harmony's edge. Peaceful resolution and Dawn's promise, reported a panicked Council communications officer. Venting atmosphere, power systems failing, structural integrity compromised. Admiral Crystalwing stared in shock as 3 of his most advanced warships died in the first exchange of fire. How is this possible? Our shields should have deflected those projectiles. Sir, called his tactical officer, the humans aren't using energy weapons. They're firing solid matter at extreme velocity. Our defenses aren't designed for kinetic impact. The alien admiral's confusion was understandable. Energy weapons were cleaner, more precise, easier to control. No civilized species used kinetic weapons in space combat because they were crude, unpredictable, and caused excessive collateral damage. But humans weren't civilized by Council standards. They were survivors who used whatever worked. The battle became a massacre. Council ships, designed for formal dueling between honorable opponents, found themselves facing an enemy that ignored every rule of civilized warfare. Human vessels came from impossible angles, used their own ships as shields, and targeted systems the aliens had never imagined anyone would attack. Lieutenant Minji Yoon, commanding the converted cargo hauler Iron Wolf, demonstrated the difference between civilized and savage warfare when she rammed her ship through the Council battle line. Her vessel, built to survive collisions with asteroid debris, punched through the aliens' formation like a bullet through tissue paper. 7 Council ships died in that single attack run, their elegant hulls shredded by a ship that looked like it had been cobbled together in a junkyard. "This is barbaric," transmitted Admiral Crystalwing as he watched his beautiful fleet being torn apart by what appeared to be flying scrap metal. These humans fight without honor, without restraint, without any regard for the laws of civilized combat. Commander Han's response came over an open channel that every ship in both fleets could hear. "Admiral, we fight to win. Everything else is just pretty decoration." The Council fleet's formation began to collapse as ships tried to withdraw from the killing zone. But the humans had anticipated this, and their seemingly random movements suddenly revealed their true purpose. The human ships had positioned themselves to cut off every escape route. The aliens found themselves trapped in a sphere of human vessels that attacked from every direction simultaneously. Council ships designed to fight in formal formations found themselves isolated and overwhelmed by enemies that ignored every convention of space combat. "Sir," called Dahyun from her tactical station, "Council fleet is attempting to surrender. Admiral Crystalwing is requesting terms." Seungmin considered this for exactly 3 seconds. "Tell the Admiral that surrender requires immediate withdrawal from all human territory. Any ship that doesn't leave our space in the next 10 minutes will be destroyed." The Council Admiral's response was immediate and desperate. "Commander Han, we need time to evacuate our damaged vessels and recover our wounded." "You have 10 minutes, Seungmin replied coldly. "After that, anything still in human space is considered hostile." What followed was the most chaotic retreat in Council military history. Damaged ships limped toward the hyperspace limit while their escorts struggled to provide cover. Several vessels were so badly damaged they had to be abandoned, their crews evacuated to other ships in the fleet. Of the 300 Council vessels that had arrived at Kepler Station, only 67 made it back to hyperspace intact. The Rest were either destroyed or so badly damaged they had to be scuttled to prevent capture. Admiral Crystalwing's flagship was among the last to withdraw, its crystalline hull scarred and dim. As it prepared to jump to hyperspace, the alien admiral sent one final transmission to the human fleet. "This isn't over, Commander Han. The Council has resources you cannot imagine. We will return with a force that will crush your entire species." Xiongmin's reply was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring it would reach every surviving Council ship. "Admiral, you just brought 300 of your best ships against 50 of our worst. You lost. Next time, bring more ships." As the surviving Council vessels disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news of their devastating defeat back to the galactic core, Xiongmin surveyed the aftermath of humanity's first space battle. The wreckage of beautiful alien ships drifted among the stars, testament to the difference between fighting wars and winning them. "Status report," he ordered. "All human vessels operational," reported Dahyun. "Total casualties, 14 wounded, none killed. Enemy." The 72-hour deadline came and went without a single Council ship leaving human space. In fact, more had arrived. Admiral Yuna Kim watched the tactical display from Earth Defense Command as red dots representing alien vessels surrounded every human colony and outpost. "They're calling our bluff," reported Commander Jiwon Park from the communication station. "The Council sent a response this morning. They're treating our withdrawal demand as a temporary emotional outburst that requires intervention." Yuna read the official Council response with growing amazement at their arrogance. The aliens had decided that humanity was suffering from Death World Psychological Syndrome, a condition they claimed affected all species from hostile planets. The symptoms included excessive aggression, paranoia about external threats, and inability to accept guidance from more advanced civilizations. Their solution was immediate intervention. Council peacekeeping forces would remain in human space until humanity could be properly treated for their condition. Human leaders would be replaced with alien-approved governors who understood the requirements of civilized society. All human military assets would be confiscated to prevent further episodes. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Kyung-ho Nam from the sensor station, "we're receiving surrender demands from Council forces at every human installation. They want our complete capitulation within 6 hours, or they'll begin enforcement actions." Yuna stood and walked to the center of the command deck. Around her, dozens of officers waited for orders. These men and women had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment, the day humanity would have to fight for its freedom among the stars. "Open a channel to all human forces," she commanded. "Galactic-wide broadcast." The communication array activated, sending her next words to every human ship, station, and colony in space. It would also reach the Council forces, but that was intentional. She wanted the aliens to hear this. "This is Admiral Yuna Kim, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces. As of this moment, Operation Sleeping Giant is fully active. All human forces are authorized to engage any non-human vessel in our territory, using unrestricted warfare protocols." She paused, letting the weight of those last 3 words sink in. Unrestricted warfare. No rules of engagement. No protection for non-combatants. No honor codes or formal challenges. The kind of total war that Earth had taught humanity, where the only rule was survival. Council forces have chosen to ignore our lawful demand to withdraw from human sovereign space. They have threatened our people, our freedom, and our right to exist as an independent species. As of now, we are at war. Across human space, the transformation began. Mining ships suddenly sprouted weapon turrets that had been hidden inside their cargo bays. Research stations revealed themselves as heavily fortified military bases. Exploration vessels shed their peaceful exteriors and became predators of the void. On Titan, Commander Jiho Park received the activation codes for humanity's most closely guarded secret. Deep beneath the moon's frozen surface, massive hangar doors began to open. Inside, the real human fleet waited in darkness. Warships built not for exploration or commerce, but for the kind of brutal warfare that had shaped human history. These vessels looked nothing like the elegant council ships with their smooth curves and artistic designs. Human warships were angular, armored, and scarred even before their first battle. They had been built to operate in Earth's asteroid fields, to survive solar flares and magnetic storms, to keep fighting even when half their systems were destroyed. "Wolverine Squadron, you are cleared for launch," Jiho announced to the first wave of fighters emerging from Titan Base. "Remember, people, these aliens have never seen real war. Show them what Earth teaches its children." The response from the pilots was a chorus of acknowledgments that would have chilled Council blood if they could have understood the human emotion behind them. These were not reluctant soldiers being forced into battle. These were apex predators who had been denied their hunt for 6 months. Admiral Yuna Kim watched as tactical displays across human space lit up with new contacts. Hidden bases came online, revealing the true scope of human military preparation. The Council had spent 6 months believing they were monitoring a handful of primitive outposts. In reality, they had been surrounded by one of the most sophisticated defense networks ever constructed. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. "Mars. Orbital defense reports full readiness. Asteroid Belt Mining Command has activated all defensive positions. Outer System Patrol confirms hunter-killer groups are in position." The reports continued for several minutes. When they were finished, Yuna had confirmation of what she already knew. Humanity had used their 6 months of protection to turn their entire solar system into a fortress that would make any invader pay dearly for every meter of space. But the real surprise was yet to come. "Admiral," called Commander Park, "we're receiving a transmission from Council Fleet Admiral Crystalwing. He's demanding to speak with whoever is in charge of this rebellion." Yuna smiled without humor. "Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the crystalline features of High Admiral Veltar Crystalwing, commander of the Council's most elite peacekeeping force. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship was a work of art, all flowing lines and harmonious colors. "Admiral Kim," he began in a tone one might use with a misbehaving child, "this display of aggression must end immediately. Your species is suffering from death world trauma, and we are here to help you recover. Surrender your forces now, and we will ensure you receive proper treatment." "Admiral Crystalwing," Yuna replied calmly, "you have invaded human territory, threatened human citizens, and demanded our surrender. In human culture, that makes you an enemy combatant. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces and return to Council space." The alien admiral's crystalline form flickered with what might have been amusement. "Admiral Kim, you command, perhaps, 200 primitive vessels. I have brought 3,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Your resistance is admirable but pointless." 3,000 ships, Yuna mused. "Impressive. Tell me, Admiral, how many of those ships have ever been in actual combat?" "Our forces are highly trained in peacekeeping operations and conflict resolution," Crystalwing replied stiffly. "That wasn't my question. How many of your ships have been in a real fight? Not a training exercise or a formal duel, but a battle where the enemy was trying to kill everyone aboard?" The silence from the Council Admiral was answer enough. "I thought so," Yuna continued. "Admiral, your people have been playing at war for so long you've forgotten what it actually looks like. You're about to get a reminder." She cut the transmission and turned to her command staff. "Gentlemen, ladies, the Council has had 3 centuries of peace to make them soft. They've had 3,000 ships to make them overconfident. And they've had 6 months to underestimate us." Lieutenant Nam looked up from his tactical station. "All human forces report ready for combat operations, Admiral." "Then let's show them what happens when you threaten a death world species on its home ground. All units, you are cleared to engage. Rules of engagement are simple. Any ship that doesn't leave human space immediately is a hostile target. No warnings, no mercy, no prisoners." Across the solar system, human forces received the order they had been waiting for their entire lives. The children of Earth were going to war, and they were going to fight the way their planet had taught them, with absolute ruthlessness and complete commitment to victory. The Council had spent 6 months believing they were civilizing a primitive species. They were about to discover that they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. The galaxy's most advanced peacekeeping force was about to face Earth's children in battle. It would not be a fair fight. The humans had no intention of fighting fair. 6 months had passed since humanity signed the Protection Compact, and the cage was getting smaller every day. What the aliens called protection felt more like house arrest with each passing week. Soo-Young Lee stared at the rejection notice on her screen for the third time that morning. Another human research proposal denied by the Council's Science Oversight Committee. The reason given was always the same: incompatible with galactic safety standards. Her team's request to study faster-than-light communication had been deemed too dangerous for a primitive species to pursue. "They're not even reading our proposals," muttered Jinwoo Nam from the next workstation. The young engineer had been trying for months to get approval for improvements to human ship designs. Look at this response time, submitted at 800, rejected at 803. No one reviews a 50-page technical document in 3 minutes. Soo-Young pulled up the rejection statistics on her secondary monitor. In 6 months, the Council had approved exactly 0 human research requests, while approving hundreds from other species. The message was clear. Humans were supposed to receive technology, not develop it. "Have you seen the latest inspection report?" asked Dr. Yoonji Han as she entered the lab. As Earth's chief intelligence analyst, she had access to all communications with the Council. "They want to place observers in every major human city. For our protection, of course." Jinwoo laughed bitterly. "Protection from what? We've been monitoring their communication networks. There are no hostile forces anywhere near human space. The closest thing to a threat is some trade dispute between the Veltar and Nimdai over mining rights." That was the most frustrating part. The galaxy the Council described in their propaganda was peaceful to the point of boredom. Conflicts were resolved through arbitration committees and economic sanctions. The last actual war had ended over 200 years ago, and it had been fought with formal rules about acceptable targets and civilian protection. "I've been analyzing their military technology," Soo-Young said quietly, activating her workstation's privacy shield. "Remember those weapons scans they showed us during the tour? The ones supposed to demonstrate their overwhelming firepower?" Her colleagues leaned in closer. What Soo-Young had discovered would change everything. Their plasma cannons are incredibly inefficient. They waste 70% of their energy output on visual effects and heat dissipation. Their missile systems are designed to give targets multiple warnings before impact. Their shields are optimized to deflect specific energy frequencies in predetermined patterns. Jinwoo frowned. "That makes no sense from an engineering perspective. Why build weapons that announce their attacks?" "Because they're not really weapons," Yoonji realized. "They're tools for formal dueling. Everything about Council military technology is designed for civilized combat between honor-bound opponents who follow agreed-upon rules." Soo-Young nodded grimly. "Their ships are beautiful, precise, elegant. They're also completely unprepared for actual warfare. No redundant systems, no armor plating, no backup power sources. One solid hit to the right spot would cripple any Council vessel." The 3 scientists sat in silence, processing the implications. The most advanced military alliance in the galaxy was equipped to fight tournaments, not wars. Meanwhile, across human space, other discoveries were being made. On Luna, Base Commander Donghyun Seo was reviewing intelligence reports from human ships operating near Council territories. What they had learned about alien psychology was even more revealing than their technological weaknesses. They actually believed their own propaganda, reported Captain Min Ji-yoon via secure transmission from the outer colonies. The Council species genuinely think they're superior to humans because their worlds are more pleasant to live on. They see our adaptation to Earth's environment as a sign of primitiveness, not strength. Dong-hyun pulled up the psychological profiles his team had compiled. Every Council species had evolved on worlds with stable climates, abundant resources, and minimal predation pressure. They had never developed the constant alertness, rapid adaptability, and survival instincts that Earth had beaten into humanity over millions of years. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Woo Jin-lee, "we're receiving another Council transmission. They want to discuss the next phase of human integration." The message was polite but firm. Humanity's adjustment period was over. It was time for more serious reforms. The Council had prepared a list of human practices that needed to be eliminated for the good of galactic harmony. Donghyun read through the demands with growing anger. All human military forces were to be disbanded, except for a small police force, approved by council observers. Human ships were to be limited to sublight speeds within the solar system. Most importantly, human education was to be restructured to eliminate what the council termed aggressive behavioral conditioning. They wanted to eliminate competition from human schools, remove contact sports, end military training programs, basically remove everything that had made humans resilient enough to survive their homeworld. They want to turn us into them, Wu Jin observed. Soft, comfortable, dependent on others for protection, but the most insulting demand came at the end of the message. The council had decided that Earth itself was too dangerous for humans to continue inhabiting. They offered to relocate the entire human population to specially prepared habitats on safer worlds, where humans could live longer, more peaceful lives under alien supervision. Donghyun activated his secure communication link to Earth Command. This is Outer Defense Command, requesting immediate conference with Admiral Kim. Admiral Yuna Kim's face appeared on the screen moments later. Even through the encrypted channel, Donghyun could see the barely controlled fury in her expression. "I've seen the Council's latest demands," she said without preamble. "They want to relocate us off our own planet because they think it's too dangerous for us to live there." "What are your orders, Admiral?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. In the background, Donghyun could see the familiar blue-green curve of Earth through her office window, humanity's violent, chaotic, impossible homeworld, the planet that had forged them into what they were. "The Council thinks Earth is too dangerous for humans," she said finally. "They're about to learn that the real danger isn't our planet. It's us. Activate all sleeping giant protocols. Phase 2 begins now." Across human space, the activation codes went out. On Mars, mining facilities that looked like simple excavation sites revealed hidden manufacturing capabilities. The asteroid belt mining stations activated their true function as massive weapons production facilities. The Outer System Research Post began powering up systems that had been carefully disguised as simple communication arrays. Most importantly, the exploration vessels scattered throughout human space received new orders. These ships, which the HFY Council had dismissed as primitive cargo haulers, began shedding their disguises. Hidden armor plating extended, concealed weapons systems came online, and engines designed for Earth's brutal gravitational environment revealed their true power. Humanity had spent 6 months playing the role of grateful primitives accepting alien guidance. During those months, they had studied every aspect of Council technology, psychology, and military capability. They had learned the aliens' weaknesses, mapped their territories, and identified their key installations. The Council had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that because humans came from a harsh world, they would be grateful for protection from an even harsher galaxy. They had never considered the possibility that Earth wasn't the worst thing humans might encounter in space. It was simply the training ground that had prepared them for everything else. Dr. Soo-Young Lee transmitted her final report to Earth Command. That night, the Council's technology was impressive but fragile. Their military was powerful but inexperienced. Their society was advanced but soft. Recommendation, she concluded, is immediate termination of the Protection Compact. Council forces are unprepared for asymmetric warfare or extended conflict. Estimate 96% probability of human victory in any military engagement. The next morning, Captain Minho Kim received a priority message from Earth. His orders were simple: deliver humanity's response to the Council's demands in person. He requested an audience with the full Council, claiming urgent need to discuss the relocation proposal. The aliens were pleased. Finally, the humans were ready to accept their guidance and move to safer worlds where they could be properly supervised. The Council chamber was packed when Minho arrived. Representatives from all 12 member species had gathered to witness humanity's formal acceptance of their benevolent rule. Cameras recorded the event for broadcast across the galaxy. Another primitive species embracing civilization. Minho approached the speaker's podium with the same diplomatic smile he had worn for 6 months. He carried a single data pad containing humanity's official response. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Humanity has carefully considered your generous offer to relocate our people to safer worlds under your protection. The aliens leaned forward expectantly. This was the moment they had been waiting for. Our answer, Minho continued, his smile never wavering, is no. The silence that followed was deafening. Several alien species began chattering in confusion. No. Captain Minho Kim stood at the viewing port of the human transport ship as it approached Galactic Council Station Harmony. The massive structure stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions, its crystalline spires and organic curves, unlike anything humanity had ever built. After 300 years of wondering if they were alone in the universe, humans were finally meeting their galactic neighbors. First contact protocols are in effect, announced Heejin Park from her position at the science station. As the mission's lead xenobiologist, she had spent years preparing for this moment. All weapon systems offline, diplomatic immunity beacons active. Minho nodded, though something in his gut told him to keep those weapons close. The aliens had been polite in their initial contact 6 months ago, but there was something in their tone that reminded him of adults talking to children. The docking bay that received them was enormous, clearly built for species much larger than humans. As the airlock cycled, Minho caught his first glimpse of their hosts. The Veltar delegation looked like walking crystals, their bodies reflecting rainbow light with each movement. Behind them, the gaseous Nimdai floated in containment suits that glowed with soft blue energy. The insectoid Kethlon clicked and hummed in perfect unison, their hive mind speaking as one voice. "Welcome, small earth creatures," said the lead Veltar in heavily accented English. "I am High Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn. We are pleased that your species has finally developed enough to join civilized space." Minho forced a smile. Small earth creatures, already off to a great start. The tour of the station was impressive and insulting in equal measure. Every alien species they met treated humans like clever animals that had learned to use tools. The Veltar explained that their people had achieved faster-than-light travel when humans were still living in caves. The Nimdai mentioned casually that their empire spanned 1,000 worlds while Earth was just one small rock. "Your planet is quite remarkable," observed Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn as they walked through the station's central plaza. "We have studied your world from a distance, such a violent, chaotic place. Constant weather disasters, tectonic instability, dangerous radiation levels. It is amazing that any complex life survived there at all." Heejin exchanged a glance with Taehyun Choi, the mission's military advisor. "Earth dangerous?" They had seen the environmental data from Council worlds. Most were gentle garden planets, with stable climates and minimal geological activity. By comparison, Earth was indeed harsh, but that was just normal life for humans. "We call such worlds death worlds in our language," continued the counselor. "Planets so hostile that they should not support complex civilization. Yet somehow your species not only survived but developed space travel. Quite impressive for such primitive conditions." The insult was wrapped in a compliment, but it was still an insult. Taehyun's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. They were here to make peace, not war. The formal meeting took place in the Council's great chamber, a vast dome where representatives from 12 species gathered. Humans were given a small section in what was clearly the junior members' area. Around them sat other recently contacted species, all looking nervous and eager to please their galactic betters. "The matter before us today," announced the Council. "Speaker, a floating jellyfish-like creature called a Morden, is the integration of the human species into our galactic community. As is standard procedure for Deathworld species, we offer the Protection Compact." A holographic document appeared before the human delegation. Minho read through it quickly, his expression growing darker with each line. The treaty was generous, in its way, offering humanity protection from hostile forces and access to certain galactic technologies. In exchange, humans would agree to remain within their solar system, submit to regular inspections, and gradually adopt civilized behavioral patterns under alien guidance. "This is for your own good," explained Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn kindly. Death world species often struggle with the transition to peaceful galactic society. Your people are naturally aggressive due to your harsh environment. We have helped many such species learn to control their violent impulses. Hyejin leaned forward. What happened to the other death world species you helped? Oh, they are doing wonderfully, the counselor replied. The Krexhai now live in comfortable habitats on peaceful worlds, completely reformed from their warrior culture. The Zulman have abandoned their weapons and focus on art and philosophy. All much happier now that they have been properly civilized. Taehyun whispered to Minho. Sounds like they turned warriors into pets. The captain nodded slightly, then stood to address the council. This is a generous offer. We appreciate the council's wisdom and protection. Humanity accepts the protection compact. The aliens practically glowed with satisfaction. Another dangerous species successfully contained and civilized. The ceremony was grand, with speeches about cooperation and peace. The human delegation smiled and shook hands or tentacles or crystalline appendages as appropriate. As they prepared to leave, Counselor Bright Edge of Dawn approached Minho privately. I must commend your species, Captain. Most Deathworlders resist the compact, initially. Your people show remarkable wisdom in accepting our guidance so readily. We learned long ago that survival sometimes requires patience, Minho replied carefully. Exactly the attitude we hope to encourage. Your species has potential, once the violent tendencies are properly managed. Perhaps in a few centuries you might even qualify for junior membership in the council. Back aboard their ship, the human delegation dropped their diplomatic masks. Hyejin was the first to speak. Did you see their military displays? Their weapons are designed for fighting other civilized species. Precise, clean, minimal collateral damage. Like they're playing a game, added Taehyun. Rules of engagement, honor codes, formal challenges. They have no idea what real war looks like. Minho activated the ship's secure communications. The message he sent back to Earth was brief. Compact signed. Begin Phase 2. Across human space, the message was received by people who had been waiting for this moment. Admiral Yuna Kim, Minho's sister and commander of Earth's defense forces, smiled grimly as she read the report. The aliens thought they had tamed humanity. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for this possibility since the day they first looked at the stars. G1, initiate sleeping giant protocols, she ordered her aide. It's time to show the galaxy what a real Deathworld species looks like when it stops playing nice. The Council had made two critical errors. First, they assumed that because humans had accepted their treaty, they were weak. Second, they believed that because Earth was hostile, its people would be grateful for protection from an even more dangerous galaxy. They were wrong on both counts. Earth wasn't a death world despite producing a successful species. It was a death world because it had forged the most dangerous apex predators the galaxy had ever seen. And those predators had just been given 6 months to study their new neighbors, while pretending to be harmless. The Galactic Council had spent millennia dealing with civilized species who fought civilized wars according to civilized rules. They were about to learn what happened when you tried to cage an entire species of survivors who had clawed their way to the top of the food chain on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. As the human ship left Council Station Harmony, its crew maintained their friendly diplomatic facade. Behind them, the aliens celebrated their successful domestication of another primitive species, completely unaware that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The humans were done playing nice, and the galaxy was about to learn why Earth was called a death world.